Throughout these Heroes Reborn event one-shots, we've established that there aren't exactly a lot of heroes left on Reborn Earth. Even our villains are starting to drop at this rate, what with the Melter being in a coma, Titanium Man and Crimson Dynamo have gotten electrocuted, and the Black Knight was reduced to a pile of smoking ash. We're starting to run out of established characters, aren't we? So how about we make some new ones? Today's comic opens in mid-battle, facing down the dangerous quartet of Titanium Man. I'm sorry, what? I just said that Titanium Man was dead. He got electrocuted. God damn.
No swearing.
Anyways, we've got Master Man. But he was in Rebel. Like this dude thinks he's God right now. Okay, we've also got Dr. Doom. What the
No swearing.
is this bull? And we've got the Enchantress. These four non-continuity conforming criminals are being fought by a team of heroes. A black preteen dressed in an adult-sized Black Panther costume pulls a garrote wire against Titanium Man's throat as a thin, scrawny, Conan O'Brien hair-having Silver Surfer lookalike blasts the armored man in the chest. A green-haired woman struggles against Master Man, while a black-haired woman dressed in yellow, with slashing red tattoos on her face, slashes at Doom with metal claws. She's got bones strapped to her arms, over her shoulders, and along her ribs, like Wolverine claw style. Finally, we have a shrunken man in Hank Pym's Ant-Man armor who pulls at the Enchantress's eye. Everything is going well. It's just perfect. You might even say picture perfect. So much so that the cameraman shouts, "Perfect!" and snaps their picture. The costumed figures immediately relax, leaving their posed enemies alone. All of the villains are actually mannequins. They don't even have legs. The heroes all separate to their own concerns. Panther Cub calls for a tailor to take in his costume. Sterling, the Silver Surfer lookalike, lights a cigar as he floats away on his surfboard. The green-haired Amazo Maxi woman looks at the Enchantress mannequin, asking if their hips are about the same size. Miss Thing, the woman wearing bones, stretches, commenting that even this fake fight was riling up her bloodlust. And finally, the man in the Ant-Man suit, or Mant, as they call him, M-A-N-T, approaches the photographer as he praises the heroes. They looked great, natural, fabulous. This spread is going to assure them star status for sure. Sterling glides around next to Amazo Maxi Woman, wishing to continue their discussion regarding her, cosmic globes and Empyrean spaceways. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more, say no more. Amazo Maxi Woman rolls her eyes at the attempt at flirting. She has already explained that she isn't even human. But Sterling isn't bothered by that fact. Neither is he, baby. Miss Thing reads from Sun Tzu's Art of War as she waits to be needed. Panther Cub climbs on top of a nearby crate and snaps his fingers. Hey, the pride of Wakanda demands that you do your womanly duty and sew this costume up. In response, Miss Thing kicks the crate out from under him, dropping the kid to the floor. The photographer and Mant stop walking. He then confesses to Mant that, you know what, they actually aren't fabulous. Not yet. I mean, that's the point of the photo shoot. It's to help massage their public image. Mant, whose large nose and buck front teeth show through even the blocky Ant-Man helmet, smiles shyly. Yeah, he knows that they aren't the best. Hell, they don't even have a name as a team yet, but he is confident that someday they will be heroes. Suddenly, an Elvis-themed phone starts ringing. The hotline. Mant rushes over and answers it. His eyes go wide as he learns that a SHIELD helicarrier has been stolen, the agents aboard it have been killed, and the Sphinx has been defaced. A massive set of glasses, a fake nose, and a mustache rest upon its face. This is truly a dark day indeed. Do I not even introduce this book? Oh my god. I can't believe I didn't even put my intro in. My name is Ben, and this is Comic Book Breakdown, episode 12.18, Heroes Reborn, Remnants. Heroes Reborn Remnants was written by Joe Kelly, drawn by Ethan Van Sciver, inked by Scott Hanna, Ethan Van Sciver, Rodney Ramos, Nelson DeCastro, Scott Koblish, John Zopp, Yancey Labatt, and Scott Elmer. And it was colored by Tom Smith. Right off the bat, this clearly isn't your standard Marvel comic. The lean towards a more comedic tone is evident right off of the bat, and it is an interesting choice for this particular event. So far, the Heroes Reborn event books have all had a very somber, kind of bitter feel. We're exploring a world that has lost its hope, after all. This light-hearted, nonsensical tone definitely feels off from the rest of it, but I don't really think that that's a bad thing. All of the books released in this event were originally dropped in 2 weeks, and even then, I think it was only the final book, called Doom, that was released on week 2 with Fantastic Four issue 25. So if all of these books were dropped in basically 1 week, and they were all just these dark, grim, bitter stories, angry at the fate of the world, it would get tired really quickly. That's like eating a chocolate cake with chocolate frosting and chocolate sprinkles, and your only drink to wash it down is chocolate milk. Remnants having a lighter feel is kind of a nice palate cleanser, and I'm kind of enjoying that vibe. Remnants having a lighter feel is kind of a nice palate cleanser. Unfortunately, a lot of the comedy here at the start is really reliant on Sterling being a lech, or Panther Cub insulting Miss Thing, so how well the comedy hits will honestly depend on the reader. I'm not terribly impressed so far myself, although I do find myself liking Mant's character. He feels like a well-intentioned dork, clearly not a natural hero, and I like that. So many comics have a random person get superpowers, or even aspire to be a hero, and once they get their chance, they're just a perfect fit. Seeing Mant struggle with this role could be interesting and lead to some fun moments. Plus, if this is going to be a collection of misfit toys, then Mant is meant to be our audience stand-in. He means well, and sure, he fantasizes about being a hero, but he is perhaps not the best equipped to do so. Inside of the backup S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier, a portly man in the standard blue and white uniform of S.H.I.E.L.D. stands before our heroes. A black eye patch rests over his right eye, his white hair receding from his middle-aged face. Held in one hand, and chomped upon occasionally, is a stick of... well, it's too dark of a green to be celery, but it's also, too bushy to be broccoli. He's chomping on some kind of vegetable. Let's leave it at that. This is General Darlgung, and he continues his brief. Whatever this force is, it's more like a force of nature than a person. S.H.I.E.L.D. can't handle it on their own, and there aren't really any good heroes left on Reborn Earth, so S.H.I.E.L.D. has called these guys. That is exactly why they became heroes, Miss Thing replies. She's eager to help. Mant corrects her. They are eager to help? Like they are, as in the whole group, like a team kind of thing? Miss Thing, just a heads up, hey, we're all here. General Darlgung continues speaking. They reviewed the press release that the heroes put out, and Amazo Maxiwoman interrupts him. They saw their press release? That was her idea! She picked the colors and everything! Miss Thing's nails dig into the table. Amazo Maxiwoman, what did they say about speaking in public? Amazo Maxiwoman folds her hands together. Yes, right, sorry. Mant steals the conversation back to topic. What exactly attracted S.H.I.E.L.D.'s attention to them? General Darlgung explains that it was their knowledge of the man responsible for these strange acts that drew S.H.I.E.L.D. to them, because the man responsible is the same man who put this team together, a man who was once known as the swordsman of the Avengers, as the last Avenger, but now he's called Deadpool. Deadpool. Now, you either got really pumped hearing that, or you just sighed in vague exasperation. Deadpool is one of those characters that people either really like or they really hate, and at this point in my comics career, I tend to lean more towards hate. I can appreciate Deadpool's character when he is written with a character, but so much of Deadpool's existence these days is just as a joke. He'll show up in a book just to be funny, all fourth wall breaks and references and just stupidity. So when I got to this point in this comic with the reveal, I just couldn't help but sigh. Now, Kelly turning the swordsman into Deadpool isn't totally out of the blue, because Joe Kelly was the author who launched Deadpool's ongoing series with artist Ed McGuinness in 1997, staying on that book until issue 33 in 1999, just a year before this one-shot was published. While Kelly's name isn't nearly as synonymous with Deadpool as his creator, Rob Liefeld, is, it was this string of issues that introduced ideas like Blind Owl and Deadpool's best friend Weasel, and shifted Deadpool's overall tone away from the dark, murderous anti-hero that Liefeld first created into more of a relaxed pop culture referencing aspiring hero. So, if anyone knows how to write Deadpool, Joe Kelly is certainly amongst them. Outside of my general annoyance at Deadpool appearing here, I'm more annoyed that author Kelly changed the swordsman into Deadpool at all. I'll fully admit that the swordsman wasn't much of a character in Avengers Volume 2, but I enjoyed what character that he had. There was good potential there. He was cocky and arrogant, but then he got put in his place when the Hulk shattered his hands and then he was killed and absorbed by Loki. And as the only member of the Avengers left on the Reborn Earth after all of that stuff, I loved the idea that he would start again and try to do what the Avengers were doing, but maybe he would be a little bit wiser this time around. So just transforming him into Deadpool raises my hackles, I'll admit it. It is an interesting turn, and I appreciate Kelly acknowledging that the swordsman would have survived given what was established in the Masters of Evil one-shot. I really like Kelly turning a Rob Liefeld creation, meaning the swordsman, into another sword-wielding Rob Liefeld creation, meaning Deadpool, though. I think that's neat. There's a kind of weird balance to it. I hate it, but it's neat. Our heroes can't believe that Deadpool would do these things. He is the kindest, noblest, most handsome, cool, intelligent man alive. No way could he have done these things. They just don't believe it. Darl Gung reveals a sword that S.H.I.E.L.D. found at the scene of the crime, their one piece of evidence. Mant doesn't want to believe that Deadpool did these things, so he grabs the sword to examine it. Amazo Maxi-Woman points out the property of Deadpool stamp along the blade, though. Oh. Darl Gung tells Mant that whoever did this crime is a sick, 666666666 man. Whatever Deadpool once was, no matter who he used to be, he is not that person anymore. So, can he count on them to stop Deadpool? Quietly, Mant starts to explain that actually, probably not, but Miss Thing cuts him off. Of course they'll do this job! The only question they have is how tightly Darl Gung wants him gift-wrapped. Mant whispers in her ear, look, this team isn't really a team yet. Like, they've barely trained, they have no transport. Look, they don't even have a team name yet. Miss Thing blows him off, shouting to the general that they'll need one thing. A transport. I'm enjoying this power dynamic between Mant and Miss Thing. Mant is clearly the team leader on paper, but he is also this quiet, insecure man right now. Miss Thing, on the other hand, is confident, angry, and probably a little bloodthirsty, eager for any form of action that she can get. So Miss Thing's reckless streak is going to continue pulling the team forward, into danger and adventure where Mant's insecurity would have held them back. Mant needs Miss Thing in order to grow as a person, but Miss Thing will need Mant's more controlled behavior to rein in her own excesses. That is a good character balance. Unlike the power balance that we saw in Rebel, There, it felt like Rebel worked for Pepper Potts, but then he refused to follow her plan. There was no balance there, no push and pull like there is here, and yes, I am still salty over it, especially since Rebel and Remnants are both written by Joe Kelly. Fun fact out of nowhere, General Darlgung's name is a German word meaning exposition, so Kelly is having fun with the General's role in this story of telling us what's going on. The broccoli/celery is a nod to S.H.I.E.L.D.'s leader, Nick Fury, and his penchant for chomping on cigars. I'm assuming that this is just meant as a joke, as it wasn't until 2001 that Marvel actually put in a heroes can't smoke policy in their comics, which would ultimately force Nick Fury to quit smoking. I'm actually more surprised that Kelly didn't just use Nick Fury in this comic, as he should still exist on Reborn Earth. We saw him towards the end of Captain America Volume 2, but I'm assuming that he wanted the joke version more than the serious version, which is why we didn't get him. The two characters would serve the same purpose anyways, so better to lean into the joke with Darlgung than be held back by Nick Fury's inherent seriousness. When we catch up with our heroes, they have been given a repurposed Fantasticar. The 4 on the side has actually been scratched off barely, like you can still see it, and they have tied a recliner to the top so that all 5 of the team members can travel. I bet off-panel that Sterling offered to let someone sit on his lap, too. Ugh. Miss Thing asks Mant if he has come up with a plan for how they are going to do this, but, no, he's still running scenarios and weighing his options. Give him a minute. He'll think of something. In truth, though, Mant is nervous. This group is barely a team at this point. How can they possibly defeat the man who brought them all together? He then flashes back to a conversation that he had with the swordsman shortly after Mant put on the Ant-Man armor. Turns out, Mant is named Ernest, and he used to be the janitor at Avengers Mansion. The pair stroll the mansion's grounds while they chat. At this point, the swordsman still looks like his reborn self, bowl cut and all. Mant looks the same as well, but the dialogue says that he has some love handles, while the art doesn't match that statement. It's still a fitting idea for the type of character that Mant is supposed to be, though. He's clearly on a journey to become a superhero. There's just a little bit of uneven artwork. Anyways, Mant is surprised that the swordsman, isn't going to beat him up for stealing the Ant-Man armor. But no, the swordsman can understand why Ernest did it. It's to make a difference, right? Mant says that it is. He was cleaning, day after day, and when Hank Pym stopped coming into work, he just figured that someone should do something. Someone needs to care. The swordsman nods at this. Yes, now, more than ever, the Earth needs heroes. People who are willing to pick up the noble fight. This is even more important now, because the swordsman has actually been diagnosed with cancer. If his upcoming treatments don't go well, then he'll go from being the last Avenger to the dead Avenger. They stop walking, gazing up at a memorial statue for the Avengers. The world needs heroes, and those heroes are going to need a leader. And that leader will be Mant. Given, some time and training and maybe some diction lessons. Mant stutters in reply. Who is going to be on the team? Exactly, it can't just be him. Swordsman then gives us a rundown of the other cast members. In New Jersey, a Mazo-Maxi woman was originally a super adaptoid who gained sentience inside of a department store, explaining her kind of vapid personality. In New York, Panther Cub was the son of a Wakandan valet who took on the Panther identity to avenge his missing king. In Las Vegas, Sterling was born from the Silver Surfer's passing, his loose energies coalescing back together in a whole new person. Then, in Canada, Miss Thing had been a victim all of her life, until she encountered a wild man in the woods and killed him. Now she wears his bones like armor and uses them like weapons. These remnants shall take up the work of heroes, and the swordsman will train them. Sterling interrupts Mant's thoughts. Hey, does Mant really think that this could be Deadpool? He was a model citizen, all about meditation and stuff. How could he possibly go bad? Mant doesn't know. Maybe in some kind of sad, mucked up, stinking cesspool of a reality, Deadpool could have been a bad guy. But that can't happen here, not in reality. Deadpool is a hero, and whoever they're facing now is clearly a madman. Now this bit I like. Despite the fact that characters like the Fantastic Four and the Avengers have left the Reborn Earth, all of the structures and pieces of their world that existed are still there. And if we're looking at the Reborn Earth as a place where time has continued to pass and those structures still existed, then it makes sense that new characters would come from them. Seeing Panther Cub as a young black man who is inspired by the Black Panther is great. Wakanda still exists, although to be fair, it should have chosen a new successor by now as the new Black Panther. Sterling being the gathered energies of the Silver Surfer, who died stopping Galactus in the Heroes Reunited crossover, is a neat idea, although I'm not sure how you go from being the stoic Silver Surfer to a guy who might as well be the Silver Pervert. Amazo Maxi-Woman and Miss Thing, unfortunately, annoy me as concepts more. They aren't created from ideas that were already present in the Reborn universe. They're actually inspired by characters from the 616 universe. We just have to assume that they would have existed like they did in the 616 universe. Amazo Maxi-Woman is supposed to be a super adaptoid, but the super adaptoid never appeared in the actual Heroes Reborn books. There was, and I will admit this, a mention of the super adaptoid in Avengers Volume 2, Issue 10. When the heroes went to the Gamma Core of Avengers Island, they discovered Loki's machine, which had been siphoning data from the Avengers through the Vision, including data that referred to characters that they never encountered. One of those characters was the super adaptoid. But that was still a continuity error. That wasn't actually the super adaptoid showing up. So where did Amazo Maxi-Woman come from? We just don't know. There's nothing there to base this off of. Plus, it generally only adapts to the powers or skills that are used against it. So it's not like you put the adaptoid in a department store and then it transforms into a fashion model mannequin. Miss Thing's origin has her killing mother-flooping Wolverine just after he escapes from the Weapon X facility that coated his bones in the adamantium metal. But there were no mutants on the Reborn Earth, nor was there a Wolverine at all. So half of these characters are inspired by the events of the actual Heroes Reborn books, while the other half are inspired by the actual 616 universe, and this imbalance bothers me. Back in the story on the stolen helicarrier, a little blonde boy named Timmy reports that the infidels are approaching. Deadpool isn't worried about them. After all, he has little blue balls in his power. He holds out his hand as he slurps on a soda, and inside his hand is a glowing blue ball. Yeah, it's Deadpool. You better expect jokes about blue balls. This is what I mean. This is why I don't want Deadpool to show up in books outside of Deadpool's books. Anyways, this is either a reference to, or it is, the very blue ball that Franklin Richards created the Reborn universe inside of. The last time that we saw this ball, Doctor Strange actually turned it over to the cosmic being called Entity, who is the physical manifestation of all of existence in the Marvel Universe. This happened in Heroes Reborn: The Return. This was part of the meta storytelling reason why the Reborn universe continued to exist, because Eternity was keeping it safe, allowing Ashima to continue to power it. How did Deadpool get it, though? And what does he plan to do with it? Man, it's Deadpool. Who the fuck
No swearing.
knows? That's why I hate this shit.
Still swearing.
The Remnants burst into the helicarrier, immediately tripping over themselves as they do so. Embarrassed, Mant turns around and threatens to cut off their must-see TV privileges. Behind him, a door slides open and a bunch of goons rush out. Amazo Maxi-Woman fires a beam of green energy from her mouth, which Mant shrinks to dodge, and some of the goons are fried by it. Miss Thing pounces on another group, Panther Cub chokes one of them with his too large glove, and Sterling blasts them with the Power Local. A cute twist on the Silver Surfer's Power Cosmic. That's actually kind of cute. I really like that. The team actually does pretty well in the fight, defeating the goons and running off for more action while Mant is still small and easily ignored. He flies away separately, grumbling about being brushed off, and beats the team to their destination. They tear open the wall behind him as he arrives, though, and then they all stare at what they've found. Dozens of nuclear missiles are lined up along the chamber wall. This is where Deadpool shows himself, wearing his familiar red and black costume, but he's also like 300 pounds heavier than usual. In one hand he has a sword, in the other is his blue ball, and at his side is Timmy, his sidekick. He greets the heroes, and Mant can't believe this. Like, is this really Deadpool? What happened to you? Deadpool then explains, announcing that it's exposition time! The treatments for his cancer did work. Deadpool survived, but they also horribly scarred him. He changed his name and his costume, but inside, he was still the same man. He was meditating a few weeks back, connecting with the universe, and it worked. He reached complete oneness with reality, and learned that the Reborn Earth was created by Franklin Richards. To quote, "We're toys, figments, less than zero on a stick, a preschooler's mental hiccup stuck in a little blue ball," end quote. Panther Cub is actually shaken by this. Like, that can't be true, right? Sterling says not to worry. Their source isn't exactly the most reliable person right now. Plus, you would have to have a pretty weak imagination to come up with this bunch of losers. Nice self-burn, Joe Kelly. Deadpool goes on, as is his way. Having learned that reality is a sham, he then went crazy. Naturally, this led to him eating a bunch of fatty foods and letting himself go physically while he pulled pranks on the world, like putting glasses and a mustache on the Sphinx. But now, he's ready for his biggest prank yet. So, are these guys going to try and stop him? Or what? The Remnants hesitate. Deadpool is a highly skilled warrior. Plus, he taught them all they know about tactics. He knows all of their weaknesses. They're just about ready to stand down when Mant says no. Whatever Deadpool says, they aren't nothing. They're heroes. They wanted to be heroes, and sometimes that means impossible odds and deadly challenges, but they can't just give up. They're the Remnants, damn it, the leftovers from yesterday trying to protect tomorrow. And the rest of the team is with them. Yeah, they could do this. Mant shouts, "Remnants, congregate!" A fun twist on the classic Avengers Assemble. But while Mant was delivering his speech, Deadpool activated the launch countdown on the missiles and climbed aboard one of them. But like a father with ugly kids, he's proud of Mant. Not that he was going to wait around for his speech to end. Like, come on, this reality might be fake, but it still has reality to it. No one would wait around for a hero to finish their speech like that. That's dumb. Stupid. The missiles then blast off, streaking into the sky, Deadpool leading the pack. On the moon, we go to the blue area, where Uatu the Watcher lives. As a Watcher, Uatu is bound to witness all of existence, but not act. His particular focus has always been on Earth, and he even appeared in the Reborn books a few times, attempting to lead the heroes back home as quietly as he could. He closes a book and sighs, disappointing that yet again, he screwed things up. Across countless realities, there must always be an element of chaos and mania, and it always ruins everything. Every reality must have a Deadpool. The missiles streak towards Uatu's location. All he can do is press his thumb against his nose, wiggle his pinky finger in defiance, and blow a raspberry. Then, the missiles impact. On the helicarrier, the Remnants watch this happen helplessly. Reality seems to tear above them, the cosmos appearing through those rips. A delicate web of green energy seems to dance around the moon. Mant swallows in nervousness. So, does anyone know how to sew up a universe? And that's how it ends. Before I go into an overall critique, I have to say that I enjoy this end sequence. The Remnants doubting their ability to stop the man who trained them makes perfect sense. After all, they are a less than stellar group of heroes. I enjoy Mant stepping up and finally taking leadership of the team, too. When he does his passionate speech, for the first time, Mant feels like a leader, rather than just being the leader because swordsmen made him the leader. It's a great moment of personal growth, which then gets undercut by Deadpool taking action, but that's good comedy, it's not really a problem. The portrayal of swordsman as a Zen warrior monk who meditates all of the time sure doesn't feel like it vibes with the swordsman that we saw back in Avengers Volume 2, though. There, the swordsman was arrogant, prideful, cocky. He was nothing like a meditating warrior. However, I could buy that after being beaten by the Hulk and then eaten by Loki, then thrown back up, maybe he changed. Maybe being turned into an energy mist and then consumed brought him closer to the universe, and since regaining a physical body, he's been searching for that peace once again. This isn't something that's confirmed or explained or even postulated in the comic itself, that's just me theorizing, but I could see it, and I kind of have to accept it in order to kind of keep this comic in mind. I do like the idea that, while meditating, Deadpool learned the secret of the universe, and that secret drove him crazy. From his perspective, all of this reality is a joke, so he becomes a joke, and nothing matters. I'm still annoyed at Deadpool having the, ball of Reborn. Like, that facet of the story is never addressed at all after it's brought up. And the Remnants react to the reveal of Franklin creating the Reborn Earth as if it's new information, but Lancer over in Doomsday knew about it. It seemed like common knowledge that Franklin had created the Earth, so that's weird. And I'm also left with a handful of questions, like, why does Deadpool choose to attack the Watcher? How do nuclear missiles break Earth orbit and actually fly to the moon? How do those missiles travel to the moon in a matter of seconds with Deadpool on them? That's not how space travel works. The moon's a big distance away. But it honestly doesn't matter. Because as seriously as some authors take their comic book stories, and as seriously as I am breaking them down, they aren't real. And they are made up. And honestly, this issue is a joke. The whole thing is a joke. And that is by design. As Deadpool takes off on the missile, he paraphrases Shakespeare, saying that maybe this story is all sound and fury told by an idiot, but maybe in experiencing it, we may learn something about teamwork and cooperation. So does this comic make a lot of sense? It does okay. Are these characters super interesting, like well-written, well-rounded examples of how to create a good character? Not really. Does this issue match up with the other Reborn event books, either in terms of its story details or its tone? Absolutely floopin' not. But does that mean that there is nothing of value here? No. Because there is. No matter what our individual differences are, or how we got our skills and abilities, or the dangers that we, as individuals, might face, we are stronger when we face them together. That's the overall theme of this issue, and it's demonstrated through Mant's actions, rallying his group of castaways right at the end to try to make a difference. And that's pretty cool. Strangely, artistically, I don't really care much for how this book looks. Ethan Van Sciver is a talented artist, having worked with Grant Morrison on New X-Men and with Jeff Johns over at DC on books like The Flash and Green Lantern, but this book seems to lack his usual polish. His artwork is fairly realistic, with lots of small lines used to render shapes or lighting. You can actually see a lot of that in this issue with Mant, whose armor he makes sure to render with detail and care, although I don't feel like the coloring really helps the armor at all. It just is all brown, with no variation or difference amongst itself to break up the design, which honestly just makes Mant even less impressive looking. So either that effect works, reinforcing the point that Mant isn't that impressive, or it hurts, as it makes an underwhelming character even more underwhelming. I do have to give credit that I dig the slight facial changes in Mant's design, meaning the large nose and buck teeth. Much of Ant's design is buried in huge, over-designed, and thick armor, but those two changes immediately make Mant feel like a very different character from Ant-Man, and given that this is the only issue that he appears in, that's an important distinction to make. The rest of the cast is a mixed bag in terms of design. Panther Cub is honestly just a kid in a full-grown man's costume, and he certainly acts like how a child would guess a king/superhero would act. He's imperious, demanding, and yet kinda useless at the same time. He's largely in the background of this issue, definitely more of a joke character than anyone with some depth. Sterling, the low-rent Silver Surfer, is a bit of a dirtbag, constantly hitting on the women in the comic or asking for some alcohol or trying to get Mant to sue a telemarketer so they can get $500 so then they can go buy alcohol. I honestly don't like Sterling at all, honestly. The fact that they don't really explain any of the character's powers doesn't help me with Sterling either. Like, I outright dislike him as a person, but maybe if Sterling did something cool, I would be willing to give him some slack. But no. The only detail we get is when Sterling says that he has the power local, and I get what that means in the broad terms, like where the Silver Surfer has the power cosmic, Sterling has the power local. I get it, that's cute. But what does that mean? He's able to fly, of course, and fire energy blasts, but we know little else about what he can do. And then as a person, like I said, he's kind of a lech and a jerk. Amazo Maxi Woman gets little to no personality, and what she does get isn't very flattering. Her origin, in which the super adaptoid takes on the appearance and mannerisms of who it found in a department store, is kind of stupid. Amazo Maxi Woman is constantly concerned with the group's more secretarial concerns, like their press release, or having stationery made up once Mant refers to them as the Remnants, or her physical appearance. She is clearly meant to be an airhead, which would be one thing if the character was born that way, but she is an adaptoid. She is supposed to improve as she encounters others. It's not like it would have been adapted to a fashion mannequin and just stayed that way. If the idea is that Amazo Maxi Woman doesn't want to change, that she's happy with who she is, so why bother changing it, then I think that would be clever, as it actually takes the woman's agency into hand. If the idea is just that the creators wanted a big-breasted bimbo caricature of a superwoman, then I am much less impressed. Her powers are also as ill-defined as her identity, unfortunately. As I've said, an adaptoid should take the skills or powers of whoever fights it. So like, in the 616 universe, an adaptoid should take the skills or powers of whoever fights it. So like, in the 616 universe, an adaptoid would get shot with an arrow by Hawkeye, and then it would develop Hawkeye-level archery abilities. Or it would get hit by Mjolnir, so then it can channel electricity and fly, that kind of thing. But Amazo Maxi Woman appears to just have enhanced strength and the power to fire energy blasts from her mouth, and I have no idea why or how, or if that ties into her personality in some way. There's nothing there. There's nothing. Miss Thing is perhaps my single favorite idea, that someone killed Wolverine but then strapped his claws and bones to their body as weapons or defenses. That's just great. It's so weird. I dig Miss Thing's facial tattoos. She's got like a dozen piercings in each ear, and she's clearly the most "let's do this" member of the team, which is fun when paired with a group of unskilled and unseasoned and kinda cowardly adventurers. I'm assuming that she also has some form of enhanced strength, as the image of her over Wolverine's body shows her using a boulder as a blunt instrument. But again, she has little personality, and her overall design is kind of lacking. She just seems to be wearing a yellow onesie with some, like, Wolverine-style slash marks on it, but hers are red, where Wolverine's are blue. I'd have loved to have seen more of the adamantium bones incorporated into her costume as well. Like, really sell the idea that these are pieces of armor and not just Wolverine's claws. There is one subtly done artistic joke that I really like in this issue. When Swordsman and Mant are walking the Avengers grounds and stop at the statue of the missing heroes, there's two things to look at. One is that there is some graffiti on the statue, one of which says, "You suck!" and the other says, "Rob was here!" a reference to the Swordsman's creator and author of Avengers Volume 2, Rob Liefeld. But there is a second reference to Liefeld's time on the Avengers, and specifically his run on Captain America. There's a semi-famous picture that Liefeld did of Captain America, where he has this barrel-sized chest. Like, despite the image being from the side, the front of Cap's chest is still visible. the furthest pectoral muscle from the camera is actually still visible, meaning that the perspective is just totally wrong. And in this particular statue, the Captain America figure is drawn to match that other image. If you haven't read the Heroes Reborn books or seen this picture before, I highly suggest you do it just to get a feel for what I'm talking about. Just Google up Rob Liefeld, that is Liefeld, and Captain America. You will know it when you see it. I'll also put a picture of the statue on the Breakdown Facebook and Instagram pages if you're interested. I think this is super cute, and it's kind of a fun, stab at what inspired this book. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Oh, one other thing that kind of bums me out about this book is actually the title font. In the promotional materials for this event, even at the end of the Doomsday one-shot telling you the next couple issues to pick up, the font of Remnants is made up of pieces from the titles of Captain America, Iron Man, and the Avengers. Literally, the title font is made up of pieces of the other title fonts, the remnants of them. That is really clever, and I like the idea. But the title font of this particular issue is all colored in a dark bluish/purple color, which makes it much harder to get the joke behind the font. I have had this issue for literally over a year now, and even I hadn't realized this until I sat down to do the breakdown for it. Remnants is easily the most uneven book out of the Heroes Reborn event books. It doesn't match the tone of the rest of them, and it doesn't really fit within the world that the rest of the books have been creating. I've spoken about how Claremont's issues of this event kind of form a narrative spine that the rest of the books then branch off of. Well, Remnants branches off of that even one more time, refusing to play in the sandbox like the rest of the titles. Perhaps worse than that, though, is the fact that the characters are mostly obnoxious. It is fun to see a new spin on old ideas, like a super adaptoid evolving into an actual person, or a character wearing Wolverine's adamantium bits, even if they don't get the depth that I would have preferred. But, credit where it's due, Remnants does work as a good palate cleanser that explores some of the forgotten corners of the Reborn Earth. As a story, Remnants doesn't take itself seriously, and this is both its greatest flaw and its main strength. This is ultimately probably my least favorite single issue out of the Heroes Reborn event, which is why I have saved the best for last. We only have one issue left before we return to Claremont's narrative, and that issue is going to take us all over the Reborn Earth. From the gamma-irradiated Southwest to the suburban Philadelphia, from a science lab in Berlin to another facility in Scotland's Muir Island, Captain America's sidekick, young Ricky Barnes, aka Bucky, is back, and this time she's bringing some friends. Join me in a week for Comic Book Breakdown episode 12.19, Heroes Reborn, Young Allies. Everyone, there are a million podcasts vying for your time and attention, and I'd like to thank you for listening to mine. If you would like to get in touch with me to share a concern, request a series, compliment me, berate me, whatever you like, send me an email at cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Otherwise, thanks for listening.